Hi, my name's Steve Munkley and I'm the ambassador for the Grande Cuisine Academy training platform. Today we're going to do another video in the soup section, and I'm going to be making you a veloute based soup. As you all know, a veloute is a basic blonde roux that is thickened with butter and flour and then added in another ingredient. So today we're going to do a mushroom veloute. So here we go. I've got equal quantities of butter and flour, which I'm going to make our roux from. You probably already very aware that when making a roux, you have three different stages. You have the bechamel stage, which is just a plain roux. You have the veloute stage, which is slightly more golden. And then if you're doing the traditional, not used so much nowadays, demi-glace stage, then you go that slightly darker stage to give you a little bit more colour and a little bit more nuttiness to your actual basic sauce. So with this one today, I'm going to make a very light roux with quite a bit of stock in it. Add the mushrooms. We're going to let it cook until it's nice and soft. Being careful, because as it's a flour-based soup, it will catch on the bottom very easily and then you'll have a slight burning. But we're going to finish it, once it's been pureed, with a liaison, which is a mixture of semi-wet cream and eggs. And that way it just thickens it and it gives him a real elegant velvety finish to it. So here we go. So we've got the butter, flour, mushroom. So the butter is now melted. I'm now going to add the equal quantities of flour to make my roux before I start adding my stock. Now you can use different stocks, but I'm going for a vegetable one today. We can keep it slightly vegetarian, this soup, but because we have the addition of egg yolks and cream, it's not going to be a vegan soup. I've pre-sliced the mushrooms today and I've actually cut some finely chopped mushrooms to be the garnish. We will cook that in a little while. The soup will take about, I would say, about 20 to 25 minutes to cook out. And then we'll put it through one of our blenders and I'll show you how that's done a little bit later on. So that roux is just nicely cooking now. I'm going to take the temperature just up a fraction with this. And again, with veloutes, you can do it with pretty much, again, most vegetables you can use in it. You can add some frozen peas, that makes a super one. You tend to, when you're doing something with peas, you can use a ham stock, a chicken stock. You can use it as a base for any type of cream soup you actually want to. But the adding of the liaison at the end is really quite an important stage because you can very quickly curdle your soup. So that's important. Right, so I've got my roux to the stage I want it to. I've got my stock and I'm starting to add it slowly. You know, pull it off the side of the stove if you feel that it's sticking on the bottom too much. So a bit more in there now. So just making sure I add a little bit at a time, working it in so that I get rid of all them lumps as we're going through. If you try and do it too quickly, you'll get the lumpiness and then you're stuck with them lumps. And in some cases, they will actually cook out as lumps. The flour will not mix correctly and it will end up being a very, very lumpy soup. Okay. I like to start making any of these using a spatula or a wooden spoon to do the initial mixing in. And I don't rush things. You know, I take my time until all that flour and stock is mixed. And you can see now, it's nice and smooth. Now it's ready to take some more liquid. And this is kind of the stage where I tend to move from a spatula to a whisk, because the whisk will assist you a little bit more in actually mixing in. But if you start with a whisk, it doesn't actually achieve the same results as what we've just done. So, okay, so while this is whisking in, when this has come back to the boil, I'm at that point going to add the mushrooms, these mushrooms, put a lid on this one and leave it to tick over for about 20 minutes till the mushrooms are cooked and it's ready for pureeing. And as I said, if you were making a general veloute, that would be a little bit on the thin side, but because we're going to finish it with the liaison, I've gone that way to make it slightly thinner. If you remember, mushrooms are somewhere in the regions of 50% water, so they're going to add liquid to this when they go in as well. And then we can always add a little bit more afterwards, but you can't take it away. So it's better to start with less than more. Just going to find a lid for this one. Put the lid on there. So, you know, in the soup range, you've got many different varieties. You've got your pureed soups, you've got your potage, you've got your veloutes, you've got your chowders, you've got your consommes, your cold soups. We've done the gazpacho in the range, and then your specialist soups like minestrone or mulligatawny. There's the range of soups are just immense all over. Oh, and also one of my favourites, French onion, which we've got another video on as well. So that's nicely coming to the boil now. I think it's about time. Right, we add the mushrooms into the soup, like so. Right, put the lid on, and as I said, we'll leave that now for 15-20 minutes just to let it cook down slowly. But being very careful, as I said, it's a flour-based soup, so it will catch on the bottom if you don't go back on a regular basis to check that it's not sticking. Okay, so we're going to finish the mushroom veloute now. You can see that it's cooked down. The mushrooms are lovely and soft. We're now going to puree it through our blender. As I've said on other videos, you have different alternatives. You've got a jug blender, you've got the RoboCoupe, you've got a small sort of domestic Magimix blender, or finally, if you haven't got any of them, you can use the stick blender, which is this one. This one is fine for certain soups, doesn't make it quite as smooth as some of the others. So, so let's get cracking. So as I said earlier, this one we're making is a veloute. I'm going to be finishing it with a liaison. Liaison just to give it that real velvety cream finish. But now we're using the blender. If you remember rightly in some of the other videos, if you watch them I've seen, you always have to be very careful when using a blender to make sure that it doesn't fly off when actually switching it on. So switch it on at a low speed to start with, and then you can increase the speed as it happens and the lid doesn't fly out. But if you switch it on to number 4 straight away, you may well find the lid goes flying in the air and the hot liquid goes everywhere. Fine. So we're now blending the mushrooms into the veloute. And remember what I said, I was stirring this all the time while it was cooking because of it being a flour-based soup. The flour actually burns quite easily on the bottom of the pan, and we achieved it without it burning. You can see now the colour's changed. You've got a lovely mushroom colour now. The flavour from the mushrooms have all gone into the soup. The texture looks reasonably good, and we're just going to add that last bit of velvetness to it when we're finished. Okay, so let's have a quick look. Yes, I'm pleased with that. I'm then going to pass it through my fine chinois just to get out any bits that may be hiding in there or left behind, to make sure never a ladle when you want one. Okay, so again, just slowly push it through. If you made the soup well, as I've said, with all of these, as you can see, there's very little left in the bottom. It pretty much takes all of it out. So, got a lovely mushroom soup there. So, we're going to move that back over there. We're going to put it back on the heat to come up slowly to temperature. And again, doing it slowly, not to rush because of the fact there's some flour in the bottom. And then I'm just going to saute off a little bit of garnish to go with the soup. We're going to have a little bit of the chopped mushrooms. There's nothing wrong with adding it in uncooked. I'm just somebody that likes to cook it slightly to make sure it's flavoursome. So, and again, this is not going to take very long to cook. So I'm just going to use a little bit of butter with it in the pan. There, we've got our finely chopped mushrooms there, and I've got my egg yolk and my whipped cream here for the liaison that I told you about that we're going to finish the soup off with today. So, first things first, we need to taste the soup. As I always say to you, it's important to taste everything you do. Taste everything you do and never forget. So, it still needs a bit of salt here while it's heating up. And when we add the liaison, we will actually take it off the heat. The heat of the soup will cook the egg yolks and the cream together. Okay, so my butter's melted nicely in there. In with the finely diced mushrooms. And we're just going to take the upper fraction more. Just to get that cooking, we take this one up a fraction more, just to get it hot. But as I said, keeping a very close eye on it because of the flour in the roux that may catch on the bottom. So again, another taste. Still needs a little bit more seasoning, so a little bit of pepper. I'm using dark ground because the soup is dark, so you can use the ground dark. I wouldn't use dark ground pepper in a white soup because it would show up as speckles and people may think that you've actually burnt the soup. So there we go. Soup is coming to the boil now. So this is the point where I need to be extremely careful that we don't... Oh, we are definitely getting there. Just still needs a little bit more. That's it, we're there now. Okay, so my mushrooms, as I said, I like to soften them up, which this is doing nicely. So they're ready now for my garnish. To go in my soup, I'm just going to leave them in there for the minute. Let's turn that off so it doesn't heat up anymore. So, I'm going to add my egg yolk to mix in with my cream to make the liaison that I told you about, which is going to add that little bit of elegance to this soup. And as I said, I'm going to take it off the heat. The soup was just boiling, so I'm happy with that. In with my liaison for the final time. One last taste. to make sure I'm happy. Oh, lovely. Okay, so and there we have a mushroom veloute finished with a liaison with a nice garnish of fresh mushrooms. Again, very simple soup, but beautifully done.